Hello, this is Jerry with What's Broke Today. Today we've got a 2006 Chevrolet Silverado 3500. It has a 6.6 Duramex diesel. I believe it's a LBZ motor. Brought it out here because when we went to start it, it just turned the key and hear it click, and it wouldn't crank. So of course, he charged the batteries and cleaned the battery terminals, and that didn't, even though they weren't dirty, it didn't change anything. The only thing that helped, if he put his jump box on it, he could get it to start then. But it still wasn't, most of the time he'd hit the key and just click. You could hear the solenoid on the starter, loud thuck, or thunk every time you hit it, though. Click, click, click. And so I went ahead and took the starter off because really there was no good place I could find to put the camera. So, but when I did my testing, of course the battery cable goes on the large terminal. The wire from the ignition switch goes on the little one. So I started out, and I just actually used the test light because it was easier to get in there. But I put it on the battery terminal, and we had good, light was super bright. So I had him hit the key to try and start it, and of course the solenoid clicked and nothing. So, and the light stayed bright. So I moved down to the little wire and had just as bright a light. And so then I moved down to the wire coming out of the solenoid, going to the actual motor here, and got it stuck down in there, and I had no light. So he went up to Napa and got a brand new starter. And yeah, and I always, it don't matter where I get a part, I always take the old one and the new one out and use my jump box, clip onto the battery post, clip onto the body of the starter, and then I have a remote start switch. I'll go from the battery post down to the solenoid, the little post, and test both of them. And of course the new one, I hit it and it spins, it actually twists the starter a little bit in my hand and spins good. The old one, without the truck, it actually did kick in and spin, but it sounded wimpy, so it didn't do too good. Now if you go to do this job, the post on the battery cable, 13 millimeter nut. Post on the small wire is an 8 millimeter, and then the two bolts holding the starter in to onto the transmission or motor area are 15 millimeters. That yeah, I'll slide over here. That when I took it apart, or the small wire off, I just used a little 1/4 inch ratchet and a 1/4 inch short socket. And this is one of the house cats. This is Onyx. She's up here supervising, make sure I'm doing this right. I had a 15 millimeter open end box end wrench. Had a short handled 3/8 drive ratchet. There's a longer flex head laying under the truck. I had my 15 millimeter socket, and then this hodgepodge swivel and extensions and wobble extension. That taking out the top bolt, I had to loosen them both with the open end box end because they probably never been off and they were tight, and it took a lot to get them loose. And then I put my 15 millimeter socket on the swivel, and then it's about a 4 to 5 inch extension, then a 1 inch, and then that's probably a 10 inch or so. I didn't get a tape out and measure it, but I was able to get that down and around, and use the ratchet to unscrew the top bolt. For the bottom bolt, I got it loose with the wrench, and I just reversed and moved the swivel back. So probably need about 6 inches of extension and then the swivel. And you can wiggle this up in between, you know, on the four-wheel drive and the oil pan and get that around. And that's what I'm going to use to put it back together. And then turn on the light. Then we'll crawl under the truck. That probably let's get under here. I don't move as good as I used to, but yeah, the starter, if I can get where I can reach here, you know, goes right up in here. The bolts go from the front to the back. That one bolt is up toward the top, and the other one's right above the oil pan right here. It's a little bit of a tight fit, but you know, where the starter has to come through the hole here, there's not enough room. So I took the band clamp loose, and then I could move the exhaust over to the side, and I was able to get the starter down through the hole. That basically I was holding the starter and, you know, laying a different direction. I just put my elbow on the pipe and pushed it over while I fed the starter down out. And I'm going to go back the same way. And this band clamp, I used a 7/16, but I think that might be a 10. I think it's actually metric, but I'm going to check it before I go back together. And then on that band clamp, loosen it up, and then there's a little slot where you can hook the T-bolt in. So I got that out and unhooked, and then took a long screwdriver and just carefully, in between the band clamp and the exhaust, I just started working it around and popped it loose. And then, of course, then the pipe fell down. And then when he's going out of town, so this kind of was an unexpected project coming in, that I'm going to get started putting it back together, and I'll be back shortly. Okay, let's come back for just a little bit so you can see that for that lower bolt, I mean, I'm going in way up here in front of the actuator for the front axle with my extension and going over. And my swivel is up there kind of by the oil pan. Then the other extensions go straight forward and up on the bolt of the starter. That I actually take it apart and at the swivel, and just use the two short extensions in the socket, put on the bolt, and then reach up through the front here and line it up, and then push onto the back into the extensions with the swivel. And then I can, you know, come back up here and just push forward and, you know, ratchet it and screw it in. And then I'll actually use my open end box end wrench and do the final tightening. All right, well, I've got the starter, so you can see through there. The new starter's all put in and installed. That everything turned out good. It started like it should, and that bolt on that exhaust clamp was a 7/16 or probably 11 millimeter. I got it all tightened up, but you just got to watch when you're putting the exhaust back on with that band clamp to you know, make sure you get the two halves lined up. Just see if I get the camera in there. Yeah, because you can see it back there where the pipe comes up, and this one, I don't know, the way it's welded on, almost like it's been worked on before or had pipe replaced. But yeah, get that lined up. Make sure you got the clamp on the outside of the down pipe and on the actual exhaust pipe itself, and so it's sandwiched in between the two pieces. And just be gentle tightening the bolts, going, putting the wires back on the starter so you don't break the plastic on that solenoid. And of course, always make sure when you're doing work like that, unhook both batteries. I just take both grounds off, because that means the only way you can short is from positive to negative. You take off. Yeah, I got her all back on. It starts and sounds really good, but I'm sure he'll find this to be nice. That, you know, because this thing's got 200 and some odd thousand miles on it. Oh, and it spins over good. So, well, that concludes another episode of What's Broke Today. That yeah, I'll say, if you find this video helpful, give me a like, Feel free to share, and please subscribe to my channel, and keep an eye out for more videos in the near future. Have a good day.